Zaraka stood in the white medical room and waited. Her hands shook as she looked at the cold metal table. Today was her 20th birthday. Today was the day that would decide her whole life. The door opened with a soft hiss. 3 doctors in. White coats walked in. They did not smile. They never smiled during the fertility tests. "Zaraka of the 3rd District," the first doctor said. His voice was flat and empty. "Please lie on the table." She did as she was told. The Velati people always did as they were told. It was the way things had always been. The doctors attached cold metal devices to her body. Lights flashed. Machines beeped. She stared at the white ceiling and tried not to think. The test took 2 hours. When they were done, the doctors looked at their screens. They whispered to each other. Zaraka could not hear what they said, but she saw their faces. Something was wrong. "Wait here," the first doctor said. They left the room. Zaraka sat on the edge of the table. Her legs felt weak. She had seen this happen before to other young Velati. When the doctors took a long time, it was never good news. The door opened again. This time 5 people walked in. The 3 doctors, plus 2, members of the Genetic Council. Zaraka's heart began to beat very fast. "Zaraka of the 3rd District," the council member said. She was an old female with cold gray eyes. "The tests show that your reproductive organs are malformed. You cannot bear children. You cannot continue the Velati bloodline." The words hit Zaraka like a physical blow. She felt sick to her stomach. But surely there is something you can do. Some treatment?" The old female shook her head. "The damage is complete. You are genetically defective. The council has made its decision." "What decision?" Zaraka whispered. "You will be removed from Velati society. Your citizenship is cancelled. You will be taken to a neutral station and left there. You are no longer one of us." Zaraka felt the room spin around her. This could not be happening. She had always been a good citizen. She had studied hard. She had followed all the rules. But none of that mattered now. "Please," she begged. "I can still work. I can still serve society. I am good with computers. I can help in other ways." "A Velati who cannot reproduce has no value," the council member said. "Our society is built on genetic perfection. You threaten that perfection just by existing among us." 2 guards came into the room. They were big males with stern faces. "Come with us," one of them said. Zaraka tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The guards grabbed her arms and pulled her from the room. She looked back at the doctors and the council members. None of them would meet her eyes. They took her to her small apartment. She was allowed to pack 1 bag. That was all. 20 years of life fit into 1 small bag. "My family," she said to the guards. "Can I say goodbye to my family?" "Your family has been informed," the guard said. "They do not wish to see you. You are no longer their daughter." The words cut deeper than any knife. Her parents, her 2 younger brothers, her grandmother who had raised her, they all knew what was happening. And they did not want to see her one last time. The guards put her on a transport ship. There were 3 other Velati on the ship. They were all young. They all had the same empty look in their eyes. They had all failed the fertility tests. The ship was cold and dark. They gave Zaraka a small piece of bread and some water. She sat in the corner and cried until she had no more tears left. One of the other passengers was a male named Corvi. He had been cast out because his genetic markers were wrong. "Where do you think they will take us?" he asked. I heard them. "Say Haven's Gate," another passenger whispered. "It is a trade station. Many different species live there." "What will we do there?" Zaraka asked. Nobody had an answer. The journey took 3 days. When they arrived at Haven's Gate, the guards gave each of them a data chip. "This contains your medical and genetic information," the guard said. "Any employer will scan it before hiring you." Zaraka looked at the small chip in her hand. It was so tiny, but it contained her death sentence. Anyone who scanned it would know she was defective. They would know she was worthless. The guards pushed them off the ship onto the docking platform. Haven's Gate was huge and noisy. Thousands of different aliens walked around. The air smelled strange. The lights were too bright. "Good luck," the guard said. but he did not mean it. The ship left immediately. Zaraka stood on the platform with her one bag and her data chip. Around her, aliens of every shape and size hurried past. They all had somewhere to go. They all belonged somewhere. She did not belong anywhere. The other 3 Velati from the ship walked away in different directions. They did not say goodbye. There was nothing to say. Zaraka found a quiet corner and sat down. She opened her bag and looked at her few possessions. Some clothes, a picture of her family, and a small toy her grandmother had given her as a child. That was all she had left of her old life. A group of aliens walked past her. They were tall and blue with long necks. One of them looked at her data chip, which was clipped to her bag. His eyes showed disgust. He said something to his friends in their language. They all laughed and walked away. Zaraka understood then that her nightmare was just beginning. The data chip would follow her everywhere. Her shame would never end. Night came to the station. The lights dimmed. Most of the shops closed. Zaraka was hungry, but she had no money. She was tired, but she had no place to sleep. She curled up in the corner of the docking platform and closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would try to find work. Tomorrow she would try to build a new life. But tonight, she was just a broken, defective thing that nobody wanted. 3 months had passed since Zaraka arrived at Haven's Gate. 3 months of sleeping in dark corners and eating scraps from garbage bins. 3 months of watching other beings live normal lives while she struggled to survive. Her body had grown, thin and weak. Her once bright purple skin had turned pale and gray. The beautiful silver markings that all Velati were born with had faded until they were barely visible. Every day she looked for work. Every day employers would scan her data chip and shake their heads. Some were kind about it, others were cruel. But the result was always the same. No job, no hope, no future. The worst part was the loneliness. On Velati Prime, she had been surrounded by family and friends. Here, she spoke to no one. Many aliens at the station could not even understand her language. Those who could understand usually wanted nothing to do with her. On this particular night, Zaraka had not eaten in 2 days. She had found a hiding place in the lower levels of the station, in a maintenance tunnel that most people forgot existed. The air was thick and hard to breathe, but it was quiet and dark. She lay on the cold metal floor and closed her eyes. Maybe if she slept, the hunger would go away. Maybe she would dream of home, back when she still had a home. But sleep would not come. Her stomach hurt too much. Her head felt dizzy and strange. She tried to sit up, but the world spun around her. Black spots appeared in front of her eyes. Zaraka tried to call for help, but her voice was too weak. No one would hear her anyway. No one cared if one defective alien lived or died. The black spots grew bigger. The spinning got worse. She felt herself falling, but she was already on the ground. Everything went dark. She did not know how long she was unconscious. When she woke up, she was in a bright room that smelled clean. Soft music played in the background. Someone was talking, but she could not understand the words. "She's waking up," a voice said. It was a female voice, gentle and warm. Zaraka opened her eyes slowly. The light hurt at first. When her vision cleared, she saw 2 strange beings looking down at her. They were short and pink, with small eyes and flat faces. She had never seen creatures like them before. Fear shot through her weak body. Were they going to hurt her? Eat her? She tried to run, but her body would not move. She was too weak. "Hey, it's okay," one of the creatures said. It was a male with brown fur on top of his head. "You're safe. We're not going to hurt you." Zaraka did not understand the words, but something in his tone was calming. These creatures did not look angry or cruel. They looked worried. "Can you understand me?" the female asked. She had long yellow fur and kind eyes. Zaraka shook her head. The female reached for a small device on the table next to the bed. She pressed some buttons and held it between them. "Can you understand me now?" the device said in perfect Velati. Zaraka gasped. Yes, I can understand you. What are you? Where am I?" "My name is Dr. Lisa Warren," the female said through the translator. "This is Jake Martinez. We found you collapsed in the maintenance. Tunnels. You were severely malnourished and dehydrated. You're in the Human Medical Center now. Human? Zaraka had never heard that word before. That's what we are, Jake said with a smile. Humans. We're from a planet called Earth. Why did you help me? Zaraka asked. You don't even know me. Lisa and Jake looked at each other with confusion. Why wouldn't we help you? Lisa asked. You were hurt and alone. It's what any decent person would do. But I'm defective, Zaraka said. She reached for her bag, which was sitting on a chair nearby. Her data chip was still clipped to it. Scan this. You'll see. I'm worthless. Jake took the chip and looked at it curiously. What's this supposed to tell us? It shows my genetic information, my fertility ratings. It proves I cannot have children. I am useless to society. Lisa scanned the chip with a medical device. She read the information and frowned, but not in disgust. She looked sad. This is horrible, Lisa said quietly. They threw you out just because you can't have babies? Of course, Zaraka said. That is what Velothi do with defective individuals. It is the law. Well, it's a stupid law, Jake said firmly. A person's worth isn't based on whether they can have kids or not. Zaraka stared at him. What do you mean? I mean that every person has value just for being who they are, Jake explained. My Aunt Carol can't have children, but she's a teacher who has helped thousands of kids learn and grow. She's one of the most important people in my life. But if she cannot reproduce, how can she be important? Zaraka asked. Because there are many ways to contribute to the world, Lisa said. Having children is just one way. You can help people, create art, solve problems, make discoveries. The universe is full of possibilities. These concepts were completely alien to Zaraka. On Velothi Prime, reproduction was the only thing that mattered. If you could not have children, you were nothing. I don't understand, she said. That's okay, Jake said. You've been through a lot. Right now, you need to focus on getting better. When you're stronger, we can talk more. Lisa checked the machines connected to Zaraka's body. Your nutritional levels are very low, but you should recover fully with proper food and rest. I want to keep you here for a few days to make sure you're okay. I cannot pay for medical treatment, Zaraka said. I have no money. Don't worry about that, Lisa said. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Everyone deserves to be healthy. Over. The next 3 days, Jake and Lisa visited Zaraka often. They brought her food, real food, not scraps from garbage bins. They asked about her life and her people. They listened to her story without judgment. Jake told her about human culture. He explained that humans came in many different colors and sizes. Some had families with children. Some lived alone by choice. Some could not have children, but lived happy, fulfilling lives anyway. On Earth, we say that family is not just about blood, Jake explained. Family can be the people you choose to love and care for. Some of my closest family members are not related to me at all. How is that possible? Zaraka asked. Love makes it possible, Jake said simply. On her 3rd day, in the medical center, Lisa made an offer that changed everything. I need a medical assistant, Lisa said. Someone to help me with patients, organize files, prepare equipment. It's not glamorous work, but it pays enough to live on. Are you interested? Zaraka could not believe what she was hearing. But my data chip. I don't care what that chip says, Lisa said firmly. I care about what kind of person you are, and from what I've seen, you're kind, intelligent, and strong. Those are the qualities I want in an assistant. But I know nothing about human medicine, Zaraka protested. You can learn, Jake said. Lisa is a great teacher, and we humans believe that everyone deserves a second chance. Zaraka felt tears running down her face. She had not cried tears of happiness in so long that she had forgotten what they felt like. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I would like that very much. Jake smiled and patted her hand gently. Welcome to the Human District, Zaraka. I think you're going to like it here. For the first time in 3 months, Zaraka felt something she had almost forgotten existed: hope. 6 months had passed since Zaraka started working in the Human Medical Center. Her small apartment in the Human District was nothing like the grand homes on Velothi Prime, but it was hers. She had a bed, a table, and a window that looked out. At the busy market street below, every morning, she walked to work, through the human district. The smells of different foods filled the air. Children of many species played in the streets. Adults talked and laughed as they went about their daily business. It was so different from the quiet, orderly world she had known before. At the medical center, Zaraka worked beside Dr. Lisa Warren. At first, she had been scared of making mistakes, but Lisa was patient and kind. She taught Zaraka how to use human medical equipment, how to read patient charts, and how to make injured people feel comfortable. "You have a gift for healing," Lisa told her one day. "You understand what people need, even when they can't tell you themselves." Zaraka had treated patients from dozens of different species. Each one was unique, with different body chemistry and different needs. But she found that she could sense what was wrong with them, often before the machines could detect it. "On Velothi Prime, I was taught that only genetic perfection mattered," Zaraka said to Lisa. "But working here has shown me that every being is valuable in their own way." The other humans in the district had welcomed her with open arms. Ben Cooper, who owned the grocery store, always saved the best fruits for her. Mary Johnson, who taught at the district school, had offered to help Zaraka learn to read human writing. Alex Rivera, the security chief, made sure she felt safe walking home at night. But it was Jake Martinez who had become her closest friend. Every evening after work, he would stop by the medical center to walk her home. They would talk about their days, their hopes, their fears. "I still don't understand how humans can be so accepting," Zaraka said to him one evening. "On my world, difference was feared. Here, it seems to be celebrated." "Maybe that's because we humans come from so many different backgrounds ourselves," Jake said. "Long ago, humans had different skin colors, different languages, different beliefs. We learned that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker." Jake had introduced her to human art and music. The Velothi had focused only on practical things: science, engineering, reproduction. But humans created beauty for the sake of beauty itself. "This painting shows a sunset on Earth," Jake explained, showing her a picture on his tablet. "The artist painted it just because the sunset was beautiful, not because it served any practical purpose." Zaraka stared at the swirling colors, orange and pink and purple dancing across a bright sky. "It's wonderful," she whispered. "But why spend time on something that doesn't help society?" "Because beauty helps the soul," Jake said. "Humans believe that life is about more than just surviving and reproducing. It's about finding joy, creating meaning, connecting with others." These concepts were still hard for Zaraka to understand, but she was learning. She had started decorating her apartment with colorful fabrics from the market. She had bought a small plant that served no purpose except to look pretty on her windowsill. The biggest revelation came when she met different types of human families. There was Carlos and David, two males who lived together as partners. They could not have biological children, but they had adopted a young Terran girl who called them both Dad. There was Susan Mitchell, a single female who had chosen never to marry or have children. Instead, she ran a charity that helped feed hungry refugees. "I mother the whole station," she joked. There was Mr. and Mrs. Kim, an elderly couple whose children had grown up and moved away. They spent their time volunteering at the hospital and teaching young people job skills. "All of these people are valued in your society?" Zaraka asked Jake. "Of course," Jake said. "Carlos and David are some of the best parents I know. Susan has saved more lives than I can count. The Kims have shared their wisdom with hundreds of young people. Why wouldn't they be valued?" "Because they don't contribute to genetic continuity," Zaraka said, repeating what she had been taught. "Zaraka," Jake said gently, "there are many ways to leave a legacy. Having biological children is just one way. You can also touch lives, solve problems, create beauty, spread kindness. Those things matter just as much." One day, a new patient came to the medical center. She was a young Velothi female, probably the same age as Zaraka. She had been injured in a transport accident and needed surgery. When the patient saw Zaraka, her eyes filled with horror. "What is that thing doing here?" she asked Dr. Warren in Velothi. "That thing is my medical assistant," Dr. Warren replied calmly, using the translator. "She is here to help you." "I will not be treated by a genetic defective," the patient said. "It is shameful. It is disgusting." Zaraka felt the old shame washing over her. But then she looked at Dr. Warren's angry face, at Jake's supportive nod, at the other human staff members who were glaring at the patient. "Ma'am," Dr. Warren said firmly, "in this medical center, we treat all patients with respect. But we also expect patients to treat our staff with respect. Zaraka is an excellent medical assistant and a good person. If you cannot be civil to her, you are welcome to seek treatment elsewhere." The Velothi patient was shocked. No one had ever defended a defective before. She looked around the room at all the human faces staring at her with disapproval. I need the surgery," she said quietly. "Then you will apologize to Zaraka," Dr. Warren said. "I apologize," the patient muttered, not meeting Zaraka's eyes. Zaraka helped with the surgery. Her hands were steady, her instincts sharp. When the patient woke up, she was completely healed. "Thank you," the patient whispered to Zaraka as she was leaving. "I was wrong to judge you." After the patient left, Jake found Zaraka sitting alone, in the break room. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Strange," Zaraka admitted. "For the first time, someone from my own species apologized to me instead of the other way around." "You stood up for yourself," Jake said proudly. "Or rather, you let your friend stand up for you. That's what family does." "Family?" Zaraka repeated. "That's what we are, isn't it?" Jake said with a smile. "Lisa, Ben, Mary, Alex, me, we're your chosen family. We love you not because of your genes or your ability to reproduce, but because of who you are as a person." Zaraka felt tears of happiness rolling down her cheeks. "I love you all too," she said. "You saved my life in every way that matters." That evening, Jake brought Zaraka to a special dinner in the community center. The whole human district was there, along with aliens from other species who had made friends with the humans. "What's this for?" Zaraka asked. "It's a celebration," Mary Johnson announced. "Today marks 1 year since Zaraka joined our community. We wanted to honor the wonderful contributions she has made to all our lives." Everyone cheered and clapped. Ben Cooper stood up with a glass in his hand. "To Zaraka," he said loudly, "who shows us every day that a person's worth comes from their heart, not their biology." "To Zaraka," everyone shouted. As Zaraka looked around the room at all the smiling faces, human and alien alike, she finally understood what Jake had been trying to tell her. Family was not about blood or genes or the ability to reproduce. Family was about love, acceptance, and choosing to care for each other, and she had found the most wonderful family in the galaxy. The alarm started blaring at 3 in the morning. Zaraka was pulled from deep sleep by the emergency sirens that echoed through Haven's Gate station. She quickly put on her clothes and ran to the medical center, knowing that Dr. Warren would need all the help she could get. The station's main docking bay was chaos. A massive refugee ship had just arrived, badly damaged and smoking. The ship carried survivors from the carry-on system, where a brutal war had been raging for months. "How many?" Dr. Warren asked the station commander as medical teams rushed toward the ship. "Over 300 refugees," Commander Hayes replied grimly. "Many are injured, and there are a lot of children." Zaraka helped carry stretchers from the ship to the medical center. The refugees were from many different species: tall, blue Andromedans, furry Cataxi, crystalline Zephyrians. But among them, she spotted something that made her heart stop. 3 small Velothi children huddled together in the corner of the docking bay. The eldest looked about 8 years old. The middle child appeared to be 5, and the youngest could not be more than 3. They were alone, scared, and covered in dust from their damaged ship. Zaraka ran to them and knelt down. "Hello, little ones," she said in Velothi. "Are you hurt?" The eldest child, a girl with traditional silver markings on her purple skin, looked up with frightened eyes. "You speak our language." "I am Velothi, like you," Zaraka said gently. "My name is Zaraka. What are your names?" "I am Nira, the eldest," girl said. "This is my sister Kess, and this is Tila. Are you here to take us home?" Zaraka's heart broke at the hope in the child's voice. "Let's get you somewhere safe first, and then we can talk." She led the 3 girls to the medical center, where Dr. Warren examined them. They were hungry, tired, and scared, but not seriously injured. Where are their parents? Dr. Warren asked quietly. Neera overheard and began to cry. Mama and Papa are gone, she sobbed. The bad people with the big ships came to our planet. Mama put us on the escape ship and told us to be brave. But she couldn't come with us. Zaraka held the crying child close. She remembered being 8 years old herself, safe in her family's home on Velathi Prime. These children had lost everything. It's going to be okay, she whispered, even though she was not sure if that was true. Over the next few days, Zaraka spent all her free time with the 3 Velathi girls. She translated for them when they needed to talk to doctors or social workers. She brought them food they would eat and told them stories from their homeworld. The girls had been through terrible trauma, but they were survivors. Neera, the eldest, had been taking care of her younger sisters during the long journey from their destroyed planet. She was serious and responsible beyond her years. Kes, the middle child, was quiet and artistic. She drew pictures of her memories, some happy, some sad. Zaraka could see in the drawings how much the girl missed her parents. Little Tila was still too young to fully understand what had happened. She asked every day when Mama and Papa were coming back. Each time she asked, Neera would hug her tight and change the subject. You are so good with them, Jake said as he watched Zaraka reading a bedtime story to the girls in Velathi. They remind me of myself at that age, Zaraka said sadly. Innocent and trusting, believing that the world would always keep them safe. 2 weeks after the refugees arrived, representatives from various governments came to Haven's Gate to process adoptions and relocations. Zaraka was hopeful that someone would come from Velathi Prime to take care of the 3 orphaned girls. But when the Velathi representative arrived, Zaraka's hope turned to horror. These children are damaged goods, the official said coldly as he looked at the girls' files. They have been exposed to trauma and violence. They have lived among inferior species. Their genetic purity has been compromised. What does that mean? Dr. Warren demanded. It means we do not want them, the official replied. Velathi society has no place for contaminated individuals. They will not be permitted to return to our worlds. Zaraka felt sick to her stomach. They are children, innocent children who have lost everything. They are defective, the official said, looking at Zaraka with disgust. Like you. Perhaps that is why you feel sympathy for them. The man left without looking back. The 3 little girls did not understand exactly what had happened, but they could see that Zaraka was upset. Are we going home now? Tila asked in her tiny voice. Zaraka knelt down and hugged all 3 girls. I'm afraid not, little star, but I promise you, everything will be okay. The adoption agencies from other worlds were not much better. Most alien species viewed Velathi children as difficult to integrate because of their strict cultural background. The few families willing to adopt wanted only healthy infants, not traumatized older children. What will happen to them? Zaraka asked the social worker. They will likely be placed in institutional care, the woman replied sadly. It's not ideal, but there are very few options for children with their background. That night, Zaraka could not sleep. She kept thinking about her own childhood, how loved and protected she had felt before everything went wrong. She thought about these 3 little girls who would grow up in cold institutions, believing that nobody wanted them. She thought about what Jake had taught her about chosen family. She thought about Dr. Warren's kindness, Ben Cooper's generosity, Mary Johnson's wisdom. She thought about how the humans had given her a second chance at life. Maybe it was time for her to give someone else that same chance. The next morning, she found Jake in the cafeteria having breakfast. I want to adopt them, she said without preamble. Jake nearly choked on his coffee. The 3 Velathi girls? Yes. I know it sounds crazy. I'm single, I don't make much money, and I was cast out by my own people. But I love those girls, and they need someone who understands where they come from. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Do you know how hard it will be? Raising 3 traumatized children by yourself? I won't be by myself, Zaraka said firmly. I have you, Lisa, Ben, Mary, Alex. I have a whole community of people who would help me. That's true, Jake said slowly. But are you sure you're ready for this? Being a parent is the hardest job in the universe. My body was considered defective for breeding, Zaraka said. But maybe my heart was made for motherhood. Maybe I just needed to find the right children to love. Jake smiled and reached across the table to squeeze her hand. Then let's make it happen. The legal process was complicated. As a genetically defective exile, Zaraka's legal status was questionable. The adoption agencies were reluctant to place 3 children with someone who had no traditional family support structure. But the human community rallied around her like she had never imagined possible. Jake offered to co-sponsor the adoption, providing financial backing and emotional support. Ben Cooper donated money for a larger apartment and children's furniture. Mary Johnson volunteered to help with childcare and education. Dr. Warren wrote a detailed letter about Zaraka's character and capabilities. Alex Rivera used his security connections to help navigate the legal maze. Susan Mitchell offered to provide family counseling services. Even the elderly Kims volunteered to be emergency babysitters. You see, Jake said as they submitted the final paperwork. This is what family does. We take care of each other. The adoption hearing was scheduled for the following week. Zaraka was nervous but hopeful. For the first time since arriving at Haven's Gate, she felt like she had a chance to create something beautiful from the broken pieces of her life. She just had to convince the judge that love mattered more than genetics, that chosen families were just as strong as biological ones, and that 3 little girls deserved a mother who would see them as perfect exactly as they were. The adoption hearing took place in a large room with white walls and bright lights. Judge Patricia Moore, a stern-looking human woman with gray hair, sat behind a high desk. To her left sat the social worker who had been handling the girl's case. To her right sat a representative from the Galactic Children's Welfare Agency. Zaraka wore her best dress and held Jake's hand tightly as they walked into the room. Behind them came Dr. Warren, Ben Cooper, Mary Johnson, Alex Rivera, and a dozen other humans from their district. The 3 little girls sat in the front row, not fully understanding what was happening but knowing it was important. This is an unusual case, Judge Moore began, looking at the files in front of her. Mrs. Zaraka, you are requesting to adopt 3 children from your own species, despite being declared genetically defective and exiled from your homeworld. Can you explain why you believe you would be a suitable parent? Zaraka stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was strong. Your Honor, I was cast out by my people because my body cannot create children. For 20 years, I believed that meant I was worthless. But living among humans has taught me that there are many ways to be a mother. She looked at the 3 girls in the front row. Neera gave her an encouraging smile. These children have been rejected by their own species, just as I was. They have been labeled as damaged goods, contaminated by trauma and contact with other cultures. But I see 3 beautiful, intelligent, loving children who deserve a chance at happiness. The Galactic Welfare Representative stood up. Miss Zaraka, while your intentions may be good, you have no experience with children. You are single, with limited income, and no family support structure. How can you possibly provide for 3 children? Jake stood up from his seat. If I may, Your Honor, I would like to address that concern. Judge Moore nodded. Please proceed, Mr. Martinez. Zaraka does have a family support structure, Jake said firmly. She has all of us. The human community has been her family for over a year now. We will help her raise these children just as any extended family would. Dr. Warren stood up next. Your Honor, I have worked closely with Zaraka for months. She has a natural gift for caring for others. She is patient, kind, and incredibly dedicated. She has already formed a strong bond with these 3 girls. But can she financially support them? The welfare representative asked. Ben Cooper rose to his feet. I am prepared to provide financial assistance for housing, food, and education. Zaraka has been like a daughter to me. These girls will be my granddaughters. Mary Johnson stood up. I will help with their education and childcare. I have been a teacher for 30 years, and I can see that these children are bright and eager to learn. One by one, the members of the human community stood up to pledge their support. Alex Rivera promised protection and security. Susan Mitchell offered counseling services. The elderly Kims volunteered to share their wisdom and provide additional childcare. Judge Moore looked impressed, but not entirely convinced. This is all very touching, but I must consider what is best for the children. Ms. Zaraka, how do you plan to help them maintain their cultural identity while integrating into human society? Zaraka took a deep breath. Your Honor, I will teach them about Velati history, language, and traditions, but I will also teach them about human values, acceptance, diversity, and the idea that every person has worth regardless of their ability to reproduce. She looked directly at the judge. The Velati way says these girls are contaminated and worthless. The human way says they are precious and deserve love. I know which way I want to raise them. The welfare representative frowned. But without proper Velati cultural grounding, these children may lose their identity entirely. 8-year-old Neera suddenly stood up in her seat. Excuse me, she said in accented English, having learned some human words over the past weeks. Judge Moore looked surprised. Yes, child. Neera walked to the front of the room, her small hands clasped in front of her. I want to live with Zaraka. She makes us feel safe. She tells us stories about our home planet, but she also shows us that we can be happy here. The welfare representative looked annoyed. A child cannot make this decision. She is too young to understand the implications. I understand, Neera said firmly, switching to Velati and speaking through the translator. I understand that our own people do not want us because we are broken, but Zaraka wants us, even though she is broken, too. She teaches us that being different does not mean being worthless. Judge Moore leaned forward, clearly moved by the child's words. And how do you feel about living in the human district? The humans are kind to us, Neera said. They give us food and hugs, and they do not care that we are damaged. Jake teaches us about earth animals. Dr. Warren lets us help in the medical center. Mary shows us how to read human words. They treat us like family. Little Tila, who had been quiet throughout the proceedings, suddenly ran to Zaraka and threw her small arms around her waist. Mama Zara, she said in Velati. I want to stay with Mama Zara. The room fell silent. Even the welfare representative looked touched by the scene. Judge Moore studied the files one more time, then looked up at the assembled crowd. I have reviewed all the evidence and testimony. While this case is highly unusual, I am convinced that these children's best interests lie with Ms. Zaraka and the human community that has pledged to support them. Zaraka felt her heart stop beating. However, the judge continued, I have some conditions. Ms. Zaraka, you must complete a parenting course within the next 6 months. The children must receive regular counseling to help them process their trauma, and there must be regular check-ins with social services to ensure their well-being. Of course, Your Honor, Zaraka said quickly. Very well. I hereby grant the adoption petition. Miss Zaraka, you are now the legal guardian of Neera, Kes, and Tila. Congratulations. The room erupted in cheers. The 3 girls ran to Zaraka, who knelt down to hug them all at once. Jake, Dr. Warren, and all their friends surrounded them, creating a circle of love and support. We're a family now, Zaraka whispered to the girls in Velati. A real family. I knew you would be our mama, Neera said, tears of happiness streaming down her face. You smell like home. 6 months later, Zaraka stood in the doorway of their new apartment and watched her daughters playing in the living room. Neera was teaching Tila how to write human letters. Kes was drawing a picture of their family, 5 figures holding hands under a bright sun. Room for one more? Jake asked, holding a bag of takeout food from Ben's restaurant. Always, Zaraka said with a smile. Jake had become like an uncle to the girls, visiting almost every day and helping with homework, bedtime stories, and the 1,000 little challenges of raising children. How was the counseling session today? He asked as they set out the food. Good. Dr. Martinez says the girls are adjusting well. Neera still has nightmares sometimes, but they're getting less frequent. Kes is opening up more about her feelings. And Tila, well, Tila is just happy to have a family again. And how are you doing, Mama Zara? Jake asked with a grin. Zaraka laughed at the nickname Tila had given her. Tired, overwhelmed, worried about everything, and completely happy. So I guess I'm doing exactly what every parent does. That evening, after the girls were asleep, Zaraka sat on her small balcony and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Velothi Prime, the world that had cast her out for being defective. She wondered if they knew that their genetic failure was now raising 3 beautiful children who would grow up to be strong, kind, and accepting of others. She thought about her old life, when her worth was measured only by her ability to reproduce. Now she understood that motherhood was not about biology. It was about love, sacrifice, patience, and the willingness to put someone else's needs above your own. Her body had been declared defective for breeding, but her heart had been perfectly designed for loving. She just needed humans to help her discover that truth. The door to the balcony opened behind her. 3 small figures in pajamas padded out to join her. "Mama Zara," Tila said sleepily. "We couldn't sleep?" "Bad dream?" Zaraka asked, gathering the little girl into her lap. "No," Nira said, settling beside her on the bench. "We just wanted to make sure you were still here." "I'm not going anywhere," Zaraka promised, pulling all 3 girls close. "We're a family now. Families stay together." Kes pointed up at the stars. "Do you think Mama and Papa can see us from up there?" "I think they can," Zaraka said softly. "And I think they're very proud of how brave and strong you've all been." "Do you think they would like our new family?" Nira asked. Zaraka looked around. At her 3 daughters, not born of her body, but born of her heart. She thought about Jake, Dr. Warren, and all the humans who had taught her that family was about choice, not genetics. "Yes," she said with absolute certainty. "I think they would love our family very much." As they sat together under the stars, Zaraka realized that she had found something the Velothi Council could never understand. She had found a family built on love, acceptance, and the revolutionary human idea that every person, no matter how different or defective, deserved to belong somewhere. She had been cast out as worthless, but love had made her priceless.